Welcome, everyone. So glad you could take a little bit of time out to join us for a conversation about Teams. Getting started. You know, it's one thing to jump into a company that's already using Teams and you get a little tutorial. Here's the list and here's what we do and here's what we use. Quite another to get started because maybe you're new to 365 or maybe you were only using it for email and now you are interested in using it for Teams, or maybe you were using a different product that you were maybe paying for and Teams is already included, so you wanted to kick that off. Lots of situations where you might be looking at that. So that's what we're going to cover today. We've got a couple slides and things to share with you. More importantly, Chris has a live kind of demo site that Microsoft lets us use for these kinds of presentations. So he's got some fun things there. Couple logistics, you're all muted, no offense. If you have questions or things you'd like us to talk about, feel free to put them in the questions or the chat. Beth's going to monitor that as we do the presentation. We'll pull those out at the end, and even if it's something we covered, we'll just recap it. So that's fine. And kind of interesting, Chris has officially been with Syscon for 8 years as of today. So congratulations on that anniversary, Chris, with Syscon. Of course, you've grown up knowing Syscon your entire life, but that's a different problem. But officially with us and really designed and built the FIT system, really envisioned our move to Azure, and has been a really key person in moving forward with the 365 rollout for our clients, which includes Teams, which we're going to talk about today, SharePoint, OneDrive, and then the Power Apps, which Chris will also touch on because he loves them, Power BI and some other things. So, all right, with all that said, we're gonna jump in, and at the end, I have a few just updates for you, and we'll take your questions. So, Chris, are you ready?
I'm ready to go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. So we're gonna turn off cameras so you can see everything on the screen, and then we'll turn the back on at the end for the Q&A so that we can kind of talk to you. All right, Chris, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks for the introduction, Kathy. So for our agenda today, we are going to talk just about what is Teams, just in case you're totally got dragged into this and you don't know what's going on at all. I'll let you know what it is. And then we're going to just dive right into looking at starting from scratch and just a blank Teams setup. And we'll look at more of a fully configured setup. And then we'll actually talk through about how to get started and some of the features. And of course, we'll leave a little time for Q&A. So Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is part of Microsoft 365. And Microsoft 365 is mostly built of the business apps, the cloud services, and quite a few pretty cool business security tools. Today, we're just talking about Microsoft Teams. So according to Microsoft, Teams enables collaboration through messaging, group chat, file sharing, video calling, and more. Basically, it's chat and calls on steroids. That's kind of the long and short of what Microsoft Teams is. If you've ever used Slack, that was a pretty popular one for a while. And I know Zoom has added some of these features. And a lot of people are pretty familiar with Zoom now for video calls and stuff like that. And GoToMeeting is another one. We actually, well, GoToWebinar we happen to be on right now. And this Teams has a lot of those features as well. So let's start using Teams. If you have Microsoft 365 already, this is going to be where your starting point would be. And so if you have Microsoft 365, and I took a look at the names, and it looks like most of you already do, if not all of you. You probably already have an email, you probably already have a login, you probably have all of that. And I'll bet that a lot of you have Teams installed on your computer too, because it's probably pre-installed. If not, you could probably just Google Microsoft Teams download and download. So all I've done for this is logged into Microsoft Teams. I've not done a single other thing in this setup. So when you log in, this is exactly what you would see. This part right here is Kintoso. That's the name of this test company. So the demo company is named Kintoso. That's where that comes from. So your company name would be here. And it starts with just a general right here. So Microsoft Teams has quite a few pieces to it. Where it brings you to when you first open it up are the Teams, which is a terrible name, and I hope someday they rename it. But for now, it's a Teams. So within Teams, you have teams. Right now, there's just the company one. Underneath that team, you have channels. So we have a general company team and some channels. But before we get into the whole groups and teams and channels and all that stuff, let's go to our chat section. If you've never done a single thing with Teams, open it up, go into this chat section, and that is going to be your perfect place to start. So if I decide that today's the day that we're going to start using Teams, and I need to talk to Alex, I go to my search bar up here and I just start typing his name, and it's going to bring up people in the company with that are found in here. So I got our marketing assistant, Alex, clicked his name and it puts him in our recent chat channels here. And this is a pretty classic chat style view, little message box at the bottom, some options underneath it. So I'm going to ask Alex, hi Alex, do you have that file I need? I typed a little too fast there. Do you have that file I need? All right, so Alex just got that message and I'm just over here talking to myself in Teams, just like I am on this webinar. So I'm also Alex, and on my other screen, I got that file right here. So I just sent that over. You can see Alex was typing, and I'm Alex. Here's the file. Oh, and it looks like it is the answer to all of life's questions. Perfect.
Hey, can I get that file?
I think you're going to be disappointed. Hi. So when I open up the answer to all of life's questions, this view here might look a little bit familiar because this is Microsoft Word. You can actually use Microsoft Word embedded right into Teams, which is really convenient when you need to do like quick changes or anything like that. Some people love this. Some people don't love it as much, which is also fine. So if you wanted to take that file and open it up, you even have this open in desktop app right there. And it's going to open up Microsoft Word for me and take care of all of the moving things around. I even have autosave. If you're using OneDrive or SharePoint, this is just like opening from there. And here's my file. So that is a very simple sending a file, starting a chat. This is honestly probably 90% of the amazing functionality of Teams. You just want to send someone a quick message. It's not worth an email, and you just want them to be able to send it back to you. That's direct messaging. I think back to before we started using this, and I can't imagine how we got anything done. It's really can be a game changer. This might be all you ever do in Teams, which is totally fine, but we will take it a little further. So up here in the top, I have a few options. I have a little add button. If I wanted to add another person, let's say Johnny Sherman here, I want to add him to our chat. And now I have a group chat. So this is just like sending text or iMessage if you use that. I also have a phone call button if I wanted to call them, and that can be in a one-on-one or in the group. And normally I'd have an option for a video call, but because I'm using this video to present right now, it took the camera and won't let me use the camera in two places. So I can add people to my chats. I can call them on the phone. I can do a quick video call. And I can send down these messages down here. If I want to send a message with a little more, I guess, detail in it, you can use this extra box, which is kind of like an email compose, where you can even add like grids and change formatting and highlighting. This doesn't get used too much in like a little direct chat, but it might be helpful in one of the things I'm going to show you in a minute. You can mark something as being important, and this can be really helpful for you, but make people mad at you if you overuse it. So this message will be marked as important, and if you mark it urgent, they literally get a notification every 2 minutes for 20 minutes, which if it really is urgent, is great. And if you do this all the time, I don't know, you might get banned from Teams.
I think I'm happy to say no one at Syscon has ever used that on us. It might be the last time they use Teams.
Yeah, I'm ready to revoke anything we need. We can attach files, so we can attach it right from OneDrive, or we can upload from a computer. You can, this is actually brand new, came out last week. You can add loop components. So since it came out last week, we won't talk about it too much. There's emojis, GIFs, everybody loves a good GIF, and a few other things in here. You can even schedule a meeting with them right from here. If you want to press that little schedule meeting button, and this is going to add it right into your Outlook calendar. We're going to meet about life, and let's meet tomorrow from 1:30 to 2. That looks good, and I'll send that right over. So I just scheduled a meeting with Alex. If you're wondering, like, where does that go? It goes to your calendar. If you're an Outlook calendar, we are huge on the Outlook calendar. If you've ever seen ours, they're a little crazy. But you can open up Outlook and look at the calendar the way you always do, or you can click right in Teams right here, and I have my meeting about life tomorrow. So this calendar view is the same calendar as Outlook. I can open everything right from here, and I get a handy dandy join button. So you just press this, and I would jump right into a video call where we can all talk. So I have my call stuff, I have my chat stuff, and then up here, I also get a few, they're called tabs, and you can look at some common things. So like files. These are all the files that were sent back and forth between us. There's some other things like an organization chart. If you're using like a hierarchy of that in Microsoft 365, that could show up here. You can look at some activity. There's none lately because we just started. And you can add to this. So if you wanted to add something to a chat, you can add some apps. There are a Teams app. Some common ones like OneNote, Whiteboard, Excel, Power BI, definitely a favorite, and tons of other things that this is just a long list. We won't go through any of them. But if you like loved Zoom for video calling, there's a Zoom video calling app for Microsoft Teams that you can put right in here. So you get some very good like extensible options, like these tabs up here, some things down here, some video calling up in the corner, but it's still centered on chat. It doesn't really distract you from what you're doing. If you're ready to go past chat, then you might want to go into your teams. Now, a team is like a group of people that need common access or common conversation. So you might have a sales and marketing team, you might have a IT team, you might have a project managers team. And for other companies, sometimes they'll do something like one team per job. If you're running 10 jobs a year and they run for a long time and it's pretty much the same people working on them, doing one team per job might make a lot of sense for you. If you're running 500, 1,000 jobs a year, that probably is not a great idea. So after you have your team and you add people to it, you would have channels. So general is just general conversation. I could also add a channel here, and I'm going to call this for the main office special events. So we're going to put a special events channel for everyone in the company. You can give it a description, and you can set the privacy options, usually just standard where anyone on the team has access, or you could make it private so you can specify who does and doesn't have access. We can automatically show this channel in everyone's list. This is going to set up basically a place for us to have a conversation. If I wanted to start that conversation, I'd hit new conversation. Let's plan a special party for Chris's 8-year anniversary. So I'm going to plan myself a party for the 8-year anniversary. Megan is who I'm logged in as, which is why I came that way. Now, the difference in the Teams versus chat, when you're talking to somebody one-on-one or even a group of 2 or 3, it's a lot better to have just the one message, where it's just back and forth like a text message thread. But if you have 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, it gets impossible to tell what they're talking about. So these are topic-based conversations, or like threaded conversations, almost like a Facebook post. So if this is the let's plan a special party, someone else could reply and say, how about Friday? And you know what they're talking about. If somebody were to start another conversation, and on these, I like to sometimes do the extra formatting. And this one, maybe this is going to be March birthdays event. We need to celebrate 5 birthdays. And let's even give it a little GIF. All right, so now I have my March birthdays event in my channel as well. So if I'm chatting, usually it's 1 person, 2 people, we're kind of on the same topics. If I'm on this team, I may have a few different topics, this 8-year anniversary, this March birthdays event. And if somebody were to, I'm gonna come over here as on my other screen and say, I'm gonna go back to this one, available. So Alex just replied, which you can see I got my little notification on it. Alex just replied to the 8-year anniversary party. Even though this was the more recent one, it goes in order. So keeping them together makes it way easier to read. I can also collapse these to make it easier as well. So this can be a great way to have kind of simple conversations. Put a little react to that message. So I just put that face on it. And you can have topic-based conversations or threaded conversations on your teams. So there's.
So real quick, Chris, back to your idea about jobs. So if it doesn't make any sense for me to have one that's specifically for jobs, I could have, like in a PM group like this, I could have one where I've started a thread about a specific job. And then when people are replying, they're answering my questions about that specific job, even though there might be another thread in that group about a different job, right?
That is a great example. And if you're, those of you on here, if you're like, well, how would I find the job I need? That's easy to find, because if we were to go in our nice search here and type in birthday, it will hopefully be a job name or something. It's going to search all through Teams and find related posts that you can see all the details for.
So I guess it also means then if I know we had a conversation 3 weeks ago and I wanted to remember who the concrete guy was in the conversation that they chose or something, I could do a quick search for it, and I don't have to go digging through all the other threads. I could just do the search, find that job, and find my information right away.
Absolutely. So to help tell this story a little better, I just switched to a different virtual desktop, a nice sample of Microsoft Teams with tons of info that they pre-fill in for us. So this one has all sorts of activity notifications. I have some chats. It looks like I need to get back to a few people. Pradeep and Patty are looking for some information. And there's, and so this, you can see kind of what it might look like if you didn't pay attention for a few days and got a lot of messages that you need to talk to people on. The chats are kind of what you'd expect, but the teams, this can be a little bit helpful. In this case, we have a team of communication. There's a UI, UX copy guideline. We have a design team, and there's general comments for the design team. It looks like they've had some, they've scheduled a few meetings, some digital offsites, some design reviews, design editorial sync, and they're gonna have a lot of meetings on this. They have an American design channel and a PNW coffee social campaign. So it looks like they made a channel specifically to talk about this campaign. I can collapse these teams to make it a little more readable too, and I'm going to collapse all of them except for our Mark 8 project team. So these are each of my teams, and then when I collapse or expand them, it shows the channels. So even if you were to do, let's say you did do one per job, you could make a channel for the different big pieces of that job. So I could look at my digital assets web. See, there's lots of conversation going on. You can see everything we need. So this is a very powerful tool, and it's easy to use simply. As you dig into it more, the more features you turn on, the more planning you're going to want to do. If you're looking at this and you're like, wow, that's a lot, that's too much, that's okay. Then maybe yours would be set up in a little bit different way so that this is not as many sections. Or if you're a bigger company, you have a ton of people, maybe you want to have way more sections than this. So the calendar, like I mentioned, is your Outlook calendar. They finally added colors to this view, which I've been dying for them to do. And if you really want to dive in, there's calls. These are just regular calls, but you can even add VoIP to this. So you can move your VoIP system right into Teams. So definitely.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, real quick. VoIP, voice over IP. So that's voice over your internet provider, voice over the internet lines, as opposed to regular analog phones that we're used to. And even a voice over IP system can have hand units, or you can pick it up on your cell phone, things like that. Did you want to say anything more about that, Chris?
No, I think that was, thank you for having that in there. All right, so we have, let's switch back to, now that we've gotten to see it and get a little feel for it, let's switch back to looking at our slides. All right, so Microsoft Teams. This is one of the views that we were just kind of checking out. Little summary, we got our teams, where you can have channels and for group topic conversations. You have your chat category for your quick conversations, like, hey, I'm running late, or hey, maybe, hey, I'm here 20 minutes early. Happy to start early if you are. That'd be nice to get, right? Yeah, so can you send that file? Where did you find this? Are you ready to start the webinar that Kathy just sent me a few minutes ago?
Yeah, or hey, take a look at the snow in Arizona, which we sent yesterday.
Yeah, what did you get? 1/32 of an inch? Did they shut down the roads?
Yeah.
Video and voice calls with screen sharing. So you can actually share your screen.
Hey, Chris,
Yeah.
but you don't have to have voice over IP to have the video call. Like we are in the process of moving to the voice over IP on Teams, and watch our newsletters. We'll give you updates on how that's going and all. But in the meantime, I can click that video, or I can click that phone receiver and get a hold of anybody at Syscon, on demand kind of a thing. So you only if you're going outside do you need the phone service. Is that right?
That's exactly right. That's a great clarification. So the video voice calls and being able to use that is included by default all the time. And it's when you're calling from one Teams, like through Teams only. So there's no actual phones involved at all. Up until very recently, if you wanted someone to be able to like with like a GoToMeeting or Zoom where you join through Zoom and then you dial in on your phone, up until well, I guess technically in 2 days, you had to pay an extra amount for they called it audio conferencing, and that was to be able to dial into your Teams meetings from an actual cell phone. And Microsoft, I'm sure many of you were on our recent webinar about their price increase. One of the big features that they were talking about is that is now included for everybody. So anyone can join from Microsoft Teams and use that for video and voice. And if they're calling into an existing meeting, they can also dial in from their phone. That is included. The VoIP stuff comes when you want to like dial out. The screen sharing part can be incredibly helpful. I think that they do it like really well. I really like the way that they handle their screen sharing, because if you've ever been on a meeting with us, you've probably done screen sharing, and you've probably had us like request control through GoToMeeting where we control your mouse. And at some point you probably took the mouse from us and we clicked in the wrong spot, or we weren't able to, like we're kind of like fighting over the mouse. Microsoft Teams does a really cool thing where each person gets their own mouse on your computer and it shows their initials next to it. And so like you can both be pointing to something on your screen as you're screen sharing, which is awesome. It is very deeply integrated with the other 365 services. Like I showed you, just opening up a Word document with inside of Teams. That's pretty handy, but it's very deeply integrated with OneDrive and SharePoint, and the calendars from your Outlook calendar and all of those good things. The search is fantastic. And if you've really dove into 365 and you're using it for like OneDrive and SharePoint and stuff, you can type in that search for a message and you get, like, let's say you put in the job like Kathy was talking about, you're searching for that job, it'll show you messages related, and it'll also show you files related to your search that's in SharePoint separated out. And business VoIP, which is what we're just talking about. Definitely phase 2. It can be really handy if you have fully embraced Teams, but you'd want to make sure that you're using it and you're loving it first. And it is also an extra cost, so you'd want to be sure that that's the route you want to go. An extra cost from Teams perspective, but it usually means you're stopping some other cost.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I would just share on that is that definitely you want to stop and do an implementation. You want a plan, you want a timeline. There are a number of things that need to be done to implement voice over IP, VoIP, if you should consider that. But to Chris's point, get these basics down first, but then there is some planning involved in that. Where turning on just chat, you don't need a whole lot of planning here. That was kind of the opening that Chris showed, where he just chose somebody and sent them a little message. You don't need any planning for that.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to talk about that right now. So for how to get started, let's say you're dying to dive in, start using it. Start chatting. That's step 1. If you're on Microsoft 365, you have your license, you have your login, just start using it. It's send a message to somebody. Done. That's it. That's all you need to do.
And if I don't have Teams open, like I have my email, let's just say I have my 365 email, You can actually just type the word Teams in your search and it'll show you the app, click on it, and it will open Teams in its own window for you.
Yeah. So I'm sure Kathy died a little inside when she saw that there was a one-step implementation. So maybe a little bit better planned out one. Start chatting with a small pilot group. Let a couple people know that you're going to start trying out Teams instead of just randomly sending them a message, 3 or 4 of you, and start chatting with just them. Maybe somebody who like is down the hall from you and you're used to like yelling down the hall, hey, can you go grab that for me or something like that? You know, maybe they're the right person to start. So just start using it with a small group and getting a bit of a feel for it. After you have a bit of a feel, define your teams. Are you going to do 1 team per job? Are you going to break it down into like departments? Are you going to break it down? Do you have like kind of pods of people? I know a lot of people are doing that now, where they have like these project managers always work with these foremen, make 1 per that kind of pod. Or are you going to not use that part at all, which is totally fine. It's not a problem to only be using the chat and the calls and the calendar. There's plenty of other features to use. If you are going to use the Teams team part, create 1 pilot team. After you've defined it, you're like, I'm going to make these 10 teams. These are the 10 that we want. Don't go and just make all 10. Just make 1. Start using that and see how you like it. While you're trying that out, you can even roll chat out to everybody else and just start using the chat with everybody. It usually does not take a lot of training to say open Teams. It's probably already on your computer. And I'm going to send you a message. You don't have to train people how to send a text message. You don't have to train them how to send a chat. There's something like 300 million daily active users in Teams, which means that if you're, maybe not everybody on your staff has used it before, but there's a decent chance that a few of them have.
Yeah, and Chris, I'm just going to jump in one more time. I know there are quite a few of our clients who have people in the field who don't have a computer. They're on the wall. They're building stuff. But if they've got their 365 email on their cell phone, you can still send them a chat over Teams, and it'll show up on Teams on their cell. You don't have to be in front of a computer to send a chat over Teams. If they're using a company email, even the basic one includes Teams, and you can send them a message or a group the message, and they do not have to be in front of their computer. I just think that's an important point, because this isn't just people in your office or foremen who happen to have a laptop with them. This is any of them.
Can't believe I missed that. Yes, definitely. There is a mobile app for Teams. That is very critical. There's a mobile app, there's a web app, and the desktop. I was showing you the desktop app for it, but you can get to Teams from wherever you need it. There's also one that works on Mac. I think the Linux one is in preview, but I really doubt anybody on today is on that one. But there's a mobile app for Android and iOS. All of your people can just put that app on their phone and use it. All right, so after you did a little work trying out that 1 pilot team and you're rolling out chat to everybody else, then you can start creating the rest of the teams. You may have found during that pilot test of the team that you are not using it the way you expected. That is totally fine. That's why you do a pilot group and a pilot test. And maybe you decide to rethink which ones you actually create, which I'll bet most of you would. And then you can start creating the rest of them. If you had a lot of changes after that 1 pilot team, if you're like, I'm gonna have these 10 teams, you do the 1 pilot and it's totally different, then maybe you do 1 more, like just add 1 more at a time. Make sure that you have what you want, but that would be our next step. After you got people using it, you got your teams, you got your chats, you're having some calls on it, check out the apps. Those apps are that little part in the top above the chat that's on the Teams as well. You can pin all sorts of things on there. Power BI is one of my favorites, which is like charts and graphs and tables of data that's all pulled in. You can pin things like Microsoft Zoom, or not Microsoft Zoom, in there. And a lot of other tools have Teams apps that you can add in there with just a click of a button and start using like a nice connected service there. So now we've talked about how to use Teams and how to get started. Why would you actually use it? People are going to use something. If you may think that, nah, they wouldn't really care, or they don't use anything right now, if you really dug, you'll find something that people are using probably already. One of my favorite stories is somebody was telling me that a project manager just that he really needed to message a few of his guys, so he made a quick Slack team, which is a totally separate program. So he made Slack, and he had like just 4 or 5 people that he wanted to use it with, and they didn't have anything rolled out, so he started using it. And then a few other people started working on his job, so then it turned into like 10, 15 people using Slack. And then one of the other project managers heard about it, so he started setting that up. Next thing you know, they had 150 people using Slack, and no one on the technical, no one on the IT side of their IT support team even knew it was out there. And so that is not great because there's no one managing the users, there's no one doing anything on that. So people are going to use something. Teams is a great option. It uses the same login people already have. One of the biggest pains, every time I talk about any new feature or service, Kathy says, I need another login. This time you don't. I'm sure all of you guys are.
I do say that. It's like, you guys are kidding, I have another login. And I do love that so much of this is so integrated. I don't have to have another login. I launch the screen. I don't have to have it up. I can minimize how much of it I want to see, but it's available to me without having another login.
Absolutely. It is included with your Microsoft 365 licenses. If you get your license through us, your license is definitely going to include this. There are like 5 licenses in all of Microsoft 365 options that don't include this probably, and you're probably not using them. And if you are, let us know so we can help you move to one of the better ones, basically. So I think almost everyone on this call probably already has this included. It can replace other services that are costing you money. So many people are like, oh my God, $20 for a Microsoft 365 license, that's crazy. And then they're like, well, yeah, but I have Dropbox, that's only $10 per user. And oh, I have Zoom, that's only $5, $6 or $7 per user. Oh, and then we have this, and then we have this. And next thing you know, you're paying for $40 a user for other services that you all use and aren't super managed and stuff. So when you're using Teams, you can typically replace a couple other things almost immediately, if not immediately. Video. Teams is video calling that you can use on a hosted server. So many of you have a virtual server for your Syscon contractor environments, like a hosted server, a cloud server. People have different names, but something like that. And if you've ever been on there, a few years ago, especially when COVID started, you're like, oh man, things are really slowing down. And it turns out you got 5 people using like GoToMeeting or Zoom on those servers, and it's really slowing it down. Teams is the only one that has a optimization where using Teams for a video call or a voice call over a hosted server will not slow it down. And that little asterisk there is if you are on a certain type of hosted server. So those of you that host with us, if you're on our new kind of next generation or modern cloud, Azure cloud servers, then you do qualify for the hosted server that works great with Teams. If you host with us and you're not on that yet, you will be very soon. So keep an eye out and ask if you're anxious to get on that new platform. But check with if you're not hosting your server with us, check with your IT team before you start using it, because You may not be on the right type of hosted server, but it is an option. Some GCs are starting to actually require that their subs use it, which I actually thought was pretty interesting when this started happening, but it's happening quite a bit. You can actually collaborate with people outside of your organization through Microsoft Teams. And so you can use Microsoft Teams and create a team within there that includes people outside of your organization. This can be really handy, and GCs really like it because it's really convenient for them. And if you are thinking, oh my God, it means that our other people are going to start messaging us from outside our organization, it's optional. You can block any of that outside collaboration if you want to. Oh, and security. This is huge. Chat apps are all over. They're a dime a dozen. You can even use texting. And no matter how much you try, someone's going to put something important in there. Even if they like, oh, I'm just going to iMessage this person this file real quick. That's your company file. You know, you don't want that going out over some other chat app, and especially those ones that are not managed by anybody and it's just out there. This is all integrated with Microsoft 365. If someone were to leave your company, there's one button you press that blocks their sign in and it locks them out of their email. Is usually the request we get, like, can you log them out of their email? So it locks them out of their email, but it also locks them out of Teams and OneDrive and SharePoint and everything else. And you're able to lock this down extremely well. So, well, thinking back to the original when we were going through our live walkthrough, did you catch all those features? I won't read them all off. I'll just kind of tab through and highlight a few. Collaborative file editing, we didn't actually talk about on that one, but you can, I showed you that opening up Microsoft Word. You can have another person open up Microsoft Word, that same file, if in that chat, and you can both be editing at the same time, which is awesome. And I know there's a few of you, I think even on this call today, where you've had the problem where you're trying to change something in a file and someone else has it open and you have to like call them and ask them to close it first. With Teams and really with OneDrive and SharePoint as well, you can have multiple people working on the same file and you'll see the changes live as they happen. Video call background effects. This was huge when COVID hit and everyone started to work from home and they didn't really have a good setup. So you can actually put background effects to kind of hide the background behind you. And today, I actually don't think GoToMeeting has that. So my background actually is the real skyline right there, if you caught that. But Teams does.
Yes, it is. Oh, and by the way, then they've got some stock ones that are very, very functional, but you can also create ones. So Beth made for us several different versions with our logo in the background, a little more professional. There are also the stock ones are business-like, and then there's some ridiculous fun ones. Like I think Beth has a Mario game one, and I've seen let's see which one, Star Trek, the whole captain's chair kind of thing, and it looks like you're sitting in the captain's chair. So there's some fun things, there's some business things, and you can make your own and make them available for people in your organization to use when they're on a Teams call.
Definitely. Reacting to messages. This sounds like a minor thing, but it's actually really nice. So many times someone's like, can you send me this file, or thanks for doing this, or we're going to meet at 7, and you just respond with like, okay. And it kind of sounds like you're being a jerk, or they take it wrong, or it's just you have 59 messages, just say okay. So being able to just hover over that message and give it a thumbs up is a nice. It actually makes for a little more natural conversation, helps you stay connected with the team in more of a less robotic feeling. Topic-based chats, that's where we're looking, and the Teams chats, where it's the threaded version, desktop, mobile, and web. You can actually sync those files to your computer. If you're using SharePoint, it kind of syncs in that same way. Little activity feed. very extendable. So it's a brand new, semi-new feature. It was out in preview for like a year, and I think it just went into the general release. You can use Teams like a walkie-talkie. And if you're one of those people that was like, I just missed the Nextel days, that is actually now possible through Microsoft Teams. And I know some of you are thinking like, I don't want to get interrupted by one more thing, but for your field crew, where they're not just sitting there reading emails all day, like many of you are on there, walkie-talkie can be really helpful.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a throwback when they announced it, but a couple people pointed out, if you've got a foreman on the line or something, you get over a walkie-talkie, doesn't have to go dial a phone and such. It could be very helpful.
Absolutely. All right, well, I could talk about Teams for hours, and we could get into some of the really cool nuanced features and all the configurations, but today is all about getting started. It's simple, start chatting with it. And so I want to leave a little room for some Q&A.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions. So one of them was, can you show how you would share your screen? So I don't know if in your demo environment you could do that, Chris, or I've got my most recent chat with Beth up here. I could do that, whatever you think.
Let's see if I have I think I can do something on here. Let's see. So Megan, got to grab that whole username. They really make these test usernames pretty ridiculous. All right. So Megan, are you seeing? Yes. All right. I just sent Megan a chat and I sent her from my real Syscon account. And now I'm going to share my screen with Megan. And in this case, I'm going to share just one program. You can share your whole monitor, you can just share one screen. And I think this is going to wait. All right, so it's still good. So I am sharing my screen with you via GoToMeeting, and they don't like sharing. So I can't show you that one live super well. I'm sure we can make a short video or something for you. Sorry about that.
But it is just a button in the upper right. And it actually looks like a monitor, and it has an arrow on it. You click on it, and you can pick which monitor you're going to show or which program you're going to show if you don't want to show everything on the monitor. And then when you don't want to show it anymore, the monitor has a little X. You click on the X, and it stops showing your screen. So it's a very quick little one-button thing that just looks like a monitor screen. Click on it to share, click it again to stop sharing, and you still can choose which monitor or program screen view that you want to share. Some of you I've been on with you and you've only shared like just the Sage screen, but then when you open another window, I can't see it. You got to show me your whole monitor. So all those options are the same in the Teams sharing as well.
Yeah, okay. And I think you guys can see the little, you're just talking about that button. It looks just like this.
Yes.
You press that and you can share the whole screen or certain windows.
Yeah, okay. What about the walkie-talkie feature? Well, you just touched on that. And is that already live or is that coming?
That's already live. Okay. It was in preview for about a year, and the big announcement that just happened was that it's general release.
Okay.
And so it's available to everybody to use. That requires a little setup, and depending on if you want them to be able to like use it without their phone, there's like certain headsets that do and don't support it. So it takes a little planning to make sure you roll it out right. As many of the more extensive and extendable features do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you can tell that I'm not rushing to get that configured, but I do know that there would be certain situations that would be good. And as Beth is pointing out to me, that we did cover this, that it was coming, and a little bit about it in our newsletter. And in our newsletters, one of the 6 pages is completely dedicated to the Microsoft 365 products. And we run Teams from a couple different perspectives more than once. And you can watch that page for the roadmap of things that they're updating, or a particular one like Teams. We run it on OneDrive, we run it on Power BI, a couple different products. All right, we have another question. Could you eliminate some Ring Central lines? And Ring Central is a voice over IP program all by itself. So I'll let you take that, Chris.
Yeah, so the answer is probably. If you were using those Ring Central lines to, like, mostly for the internal calls, and it would be for, you know, a handful of people, you may be able to turn those off, and they can use Teams for those internal Teams to Teams calls. And so in that case, you'd be able to eliminate some. Though, if you were talking about eliminating all of Ring Central lines, that would usually, it's kind of an all or nothing with the voice over IP. You probably wouldn't want to have 2 separate voice over IP, one through Ring Central, one through Teams. You'd probably want to do like a switch to Teams for voice over IP.
You would pick your voice over IP. You either are going to have Nextiva, which some of our clients have. You have Teams for your voice over IP. You have Ring Central for your voice over IP. If you wanted to make a change, you change to one of them. You don't split your phones into multiple.
Yeah. So the word some there, of eliminating just some of the lines, is like only if they're using it for just internal calls.
Right, right. And it is really handy for me to just video or just call Beth or Chris, or if we've got a quick meeting, we've actually got the meetings pre-planned. It's me, Chris, and Mary. We just join that meeting automatically. You're on the video, you're on the audio. I don't have to pick up my phone and dial in for my cell. I don't have to pick up the hand unit and dial in. So very handy from that perspective.
Yeah, and if any of you are still working remotely, I know a lot of people, some people are starting to come back, some people never left their office, some people are doing a little hybrid. A lot of times people just felt really disconnected. And I know some people still feel kind of disconnected on that. Instead of sending someone an email asking them what time they're gonna be at this site, or giving them some info, being able to press one button to get on a video call really helps the team feel more connected, engaged with each other, more of a team and not just an island.
Yeah, I do think, 2 years ago, if I got on a GoToMeeting call or something like that with my video, I was the odd man out. Now, when I get on a call, people are apologizing if they don't have a camera up, because it's kind of expected now. And it's that whole shift of, we're all remote. How do we stay connected with each other? How do we see each other? How do we have a conversation where we can see people's reactions and facial expressions and know that they're engaged and paying attention? So now the cameras are a little bit more of a protocol expected item. And I think that even internally, if you can't be with your team members or not down the hall, you're not going to meet them in the coffee room, this is a good thing to do. I think one forgot when they came in. Is Teams voice over IP a full phone system now? If you switch, can you create auto attendance and extensions in voicemail boxes? Well, I'll let Chris talk, but stay tuned, because we are in the process of doing this, and I'll be writing about it in our newsletter. I'll probably have a short video blog on it. We're actually rolling this out to test it, but what else did you want to say, Chris?
Yeah, Teams VoIP is a full phone system. It actually has been for a while. It was unfortunate that they had an audio conferencing license that was separate. I'm glad that that's not really a thing anymore, because that did cause a lot of confusion for people. But Teams VoIP is definitely a full phone system. It can replace what I would say 99% of other phone systems do. It can be a full, robust thing. Your auto attendance, extensions, voicemail, absolutely. They have some pretty cool things for the test to see if we were going to try rolling out internally. I set myself up, gave myself a Teams VoIP license, gave myself a phone number, and I was able to dial out in about 15 minutes of effort. I was able to dial out. Now, then I said,
Although that's really nice, we are not recommending you do that here.
yes, but you
We
can set
spent
up,
some time doing some planning on this, and it definitely takes some planning.
yes, but you can get, they give you these like numbers and you can get them automatically and everything. So you can set up your whole auto attendance and extensions and voicemail boxes with basically like temporary non-real numbers, and to make sure that it has the full features you need. Then when you're like, after you know everything works well, you can make sure all your users are on it and do a cutover of your phone number.
Yeah. Chris, can you go forward one more slide? I think we have one more on there. Did it have anything coming up? No.
We
Okay.
have one more question on there that I saw come through.
Did it come through?
What about incoming company calls?
There you go.
Yeah, so definitely on the VoIP as well. If you have the VoIP, you can use you can move your phone number from, it's the same person asked about the Ring Central, so you can move it from Ring Central to that, and you would be able to receive calls just like Ring Central.
Yeah, and that is what we're in the process of doing. So we are switching to Teams voice over IP. All our incoming calls will come through that process. You'll get our after hours message when those times are coming up. You'll have the option to choose the on-call attendant. I don't know if we can keep it number 4 off the main menu, but I hope so, because I have lots of things I've sent you guys that say that. So it's a full phone system that would do all of those things, voice over IP. So definitely.
And, you know, when we were testing it, we have an emergency line, as many of you know, and so we test the emergency line, we leave a voicemail and send a text message to the on-call tech that we have for the week. And I get a text message with, this is like, you know, this text marks up Teams. It has the voicemail attached. It had a transcript of the voicemail.
Wow.
I was like, how did you do this? And Matt was setting it up. I said, how did you do it? That's amazing. Like, how long did it take you to set up? He said, oh, it's happened by default. Have it automatically.
How fun. Well, and what I love is you don't have to call into the phone system to retrieve the message. Then you can listen to it. You can read the transcript, which, you know, that's convenient, but you can listen to it right then and there as well. In fact, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was finish with that.
Well, I was just going to say, on our website, we have a slider for the Microsoft 365 resources. And if you click on that, there's a whole list of things that you can drill down and get more information on some of the things that we've been posting on that. As I mentioned, our newsletters have a dedicated page for just the 365 products, using them, tips. There's a box called Did You Know? Beth always finds a nice little tidbit in there as well. So we have some that are linkable right on our website. We've got our newsletters, which we mail to our clients, but also are available via email, or go to the website and look for the newsletters. You can find them there. So lots of resources there. What are you going to say?
So I think that we need to, in maybe April, do a webinar on specifically Teams VoIP, April, May, after we've gotten to fully use it ourselves, and we can report back and tell you if it fully lives up to the hype.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and keep posting that. We're right at the top of the hour, so I'm just going to also mention that Microsoft has a lot of resources on all of these short little videos, short little YouTube things, lots of tips on this stuff. So you can check some of ours, of course. You can look at some of those. They are very well done, and they talk about all these different things, getting started or more in-depth features. And then just in case you missed it, we did run our webinar on February 11th about the Microsoft price increase, which comes up effective Tuesday, March 1st. If you are not with us for your 365 licenses, you definitely want to get information. You have some decisions to make. The price increase can be nominal or quite significant depending on how you choose to take care of your licenses. So make sure you're educated on that. Make sure you're on top of it. If you aren't sure what we're doing and you are with us, give us a call. I actually have been in touch with our primary contact at every one of our clients on this topic. So wanted to hit you with that. All right, a couple people are needing to jump off. They've got things at the top of the hour. I believe, Chris, you and I do as well. So any final word?
No, thank you, everybody. I hope you get to use it and send us what you think. Yeah, dive in and tell us what you think. I'd love to hear how some of these go.
All right, great. All right, thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.